Hello there! Now that Build 42 has finally dropped, I figured it's time for a brand new base locations video. We will be going through not 10, but 11 base locations to give you a bit of inspiration for your next playthrough. Assuming you can fight your way through the new crowds, of course. As always, these are my opinions. If I've missed anything or if you've come across some other cool spots, put them in the comments for others to see. These base locations are scattered throughout the map and are just some areas that I thought would be good future base spots. Without further ado, let us begin. Starting off strong is none other than the PS Delilah, a ferry docked just outside of the brand new town of Brandenburg. It goes without saying that this one will be one of the tougher ones to clear, given that it's balls deep in the town and will have quite a few Zeds around. If you manage to clear this up, you will literally have one point of entry, which you can block off with cars, walls, or whatever delightful ramshackle defenses you can imagine. You have ample space around you to build platforms on the water, and also plenty of space to fish for food. Inside, you have 3 whole floors to customize to your heart's content. If you made it far enough to clear out the area without dying, you have quick access to the surrounding POIs for some good loot, which include a metal workshop, a bookstore, a tool shop, and even the Brandenburg gun store. Only slight issue with it is its distance from a good wood supply. You have a small forest just outside of it, but over time, bigger projects will require even more legwork to haul the logs back. Before Build 42 dropped, Ekron was one of my least favorite places to visit or even base up in, partly because I always felt like it was super sparse in terms of POIs. With the new facelifts, however, one particular location stood out to me. This beauty right here. You have good open land for building, but the zombie spawns look a bit rough, depending on your population settings of course. So it will take some clearing out, but with respawns turned off, it should be quite safe. It's remote, but relatively close to town for supply runs, unless you want to focus entirely on a wilderness/rural playthrough. Also, it's balls deep in a forest, so wood is abundant. It doesn't have a basement spawn, which I guess could be overlooked, but to make up for that, you have a barn for animals, a chicken coop, wooden fences set up with only a handful of entrances, which don't seem to be affected by the upcoming fence mechanics yet, and a double garage. And the best part, a well for constant supply of good water. This place will make a good spot for a more rural playthrough that isn't too far removed from other POIs. The gift that keeps on giving. For those of you who are a fan of owning a large area of land, you could also take a look at this specimen right here. Assuming the fence mechanic isn't coming anytime soon, the entire property is ringed with them. With a bit of elbow grease, you could seal off most of the entrances. It goes without saying that with the absolutely bonkers zombie distribution now, it will be much easier with respawns turned off, but that depends on your flavor of masochism. You have a snazzy lake house to call your own, with a lake for fishing, and of course, we can't forget about the well. With ample wood around to be used for construction, this one will see you through for a very long time. The only real downside I can see is that it's quite far away from any town or any major POIs. That, and once you are a few months in, navigating those overgrown forest roads will be a nightmare. This one is one of my personal favorites, and it's made even better with the new facelifts that IndieStone have done. It's situated right in the heart of Muldraugh, so it may not be suited as an initial base location, but it's worth working towards. I'm talking about none other than the brand new Cortman Medical building. Even though the zombie spawns are all over the place now, Cortman is far enough away from the main road to be relatively safe. Using that term lightly though, it is still mold after all. It's protected mostly by high fences, which will give you a bit of breathing room, and inside you have 2 stories to customize and a wealth of medical equipment. Just make sure to barricade the windows in the smaller building, otherwise you will get unwanted visitors from over at the convenience store. You also have a forest nearby for oodles of wood for building, which you're gonna need for your rainwater collectors because there isn't any immediate access to water aside from sinks in nearby houses. Next up is a base location that I've mentioned before in a previous base locations video. The only reason why I'm putting it here is because it was also affected by the new facelifts and is now even better, and that is the Rusty Rifle Tavern. Before Build 42 dropped, you would just have a wooden building with not much else going on, but now we are greeted with a large complex that is ringed with fences. Until the fence mechanic drops, this one is set to keep you going for a while, with a bunch of easy areas to barricade and turn this place into a literal fortress. You now have a garage to store your vehicles in and plenty of backyard space to plant crops, which I guess will only make sense once crops in Build 42 can actually grow, but nothing a few mods can't fix. It's far enough on the edge of town to be relatively safe and close enough for points of interest for easy looting. The next handful of base locations are actually pretty close to the Rusty Rifle Tavern. All of them have great potential to be solid base locations in Mold, but it goes without saying that they will all probably be rough to clear with the new zombie population distribution, but are all very worth looking at as a base location to aim for. Heading slightly closer to the main road of Muldraugh, but still close enough to the Rusty Rifle, is the L&B warehouse. Now, why I like this one so much is that it is entirely ringed with fences. Assuming the new fence mechanic doesn't come anytime soon, this one is a literal castle. Minus all the floors, of course. You effectively have one entrance to barricade the out of and one window in this building. Once done, you will have huge space to build however you want. For multiplayer, this base would actually be great for a compound of players. Being a warehouse, you will most likely come across some valuable loot and perhaps a Jenny spawn or two. The biggest downside that I can see happening here is easy access to food in the long run. Luckily, you are close to the forest for wood and very close to other POIs around Mold, especially the petrol station, which is just across the way. If you've come across this place or haven't been living under a rock, you will know that this is one amazing base location for a longer run. I'm talking about none other than the newly revamped Muldraugh police station. Compared to the original Build 41 version, this one is just so much more viable. Now we have a massive surface area that is ringed with the juicy kind of fences, a garage that can fit 2 cars and comes with ample storage, not to mention the likely possibility of firearm spawns. With the new basement system, we now have a basement floor that was previously a morgue. A bit grim, but it's even more space for you to customize as you wish. The big downside, of course, is the police station's close proximity to the main road and other POIs that would spawn a metric ton of Zeds, so I would definitely not recommend gunning for this as your first base location in your playthrough. Alrighty, moving on to the Echo Creek region, one of the brand new spawn locations that was included in the Build 42 update. A quiet little town with the already infamous Guns Unlimited, that at first glance doesn't look like much, but it holds some really juicy base locations. First stop on our tour of this not so sleepy town is the farm downriver from the main town. This is a rather large land area which will keep you busy for a long while, especially if you're someone who likes building huge compounds, and it offers a lot for long-term survival. The property is ringed with fences which will require a bit of fixing up as there are a lot of gaps in the fences for wanderers to pass through. You have easy access to the lake for fishing, a well for water, farm plots for planting seeds, and plenty of wood around you to build with. Be warned though, this one will take a bit of clearing out as there are quite a bit of zombie spawns around. There isn't much in terms of loot here though, it's mostly just produce and a pig spawn or two, so make sure you have enough supplies ahead of time. It also has easy access to the main road for supply runs. It's a solid base location, but I'd still say it's better for multiplayer when it finally comes, just given its sheer size. Next up is the gas station in Echo Creek. This beauty has pretty much everything you could want in a base. A mechanic's workshop attached to the main building for storing vehicles, spacious accommodation upstairs with an equally spacious basement area for storage. And not to overstate the obvious, it is a gas station, meaning getting fuel is about as convenient as it gets. The reserves are usually pretty large, so it will keep you going for a long while, most likely your entire playthrough. The best part? It's on the outskirts of town, so clearing it should be easier than other locations. For those of you architects who dream of walling off a huge complex and making a small town of their own, look no further than this sexy piece of real estate. This housing complex only has one entryway, making it stupidly easy to defend. It's ringed with the good kind of fences, which, to my knowledge, won't get affected by the new metal fence mechanic coming soon, so it should keep you going for just about forever. Not to mention the small mansion at the end of the estate, which could be your forever home. Of course, with ambitious projects comes great risk, that risk being a pretty sizable horde in the area, so it will take you a while to get going. Nevertheless, with trees nearby for ample wood supply, hauling wood back for building projects will be super easy. However, you don't have access to a river nearby or a well, so rainwater collectors and hunting or farming will be a good bet to sustain yourself. It's worth checking out if you want that kind of community living lifestyle. Last but not least is the school complex to the north of the housing estate we just looked at. This one is also a pretty massive land area. I'm sure you're seeing a bit of a trend here, which is secured by fences. Heads up that these fences are riddled with holes, so don't forget to patch those up. The buildings are a little run down and the surrounding grounds are overgrown, so it will need a bit of TLC. Once secured, you have a huge land area to do whatever you wish with. Ample space to build extra buildings, a lake nearby for fishing and water, and woodland as far as the eye can see. Biggest downside is that it's in the middle of nowhere. Getting to towns for much needed loot will take a while, and the roads look like it will get pretty overgrown as time goes on, making loot runs even harder. Still, I'd say it's worth a look if you're planning to live as remote as possible, relying on the land instead of capitalism. And that's it for the base locations. If you've tried any of these or know of some other places that you found, don't forget to pop them in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, I'd encourage you to drop a like and subscribe. And now, good luck out there, survivor, and I will see you in the next one.